You can call me Mystic Mike because I predict these things.
Ian Garry takes on Carlos Prates this Saturday as the main event of UFC Fight Night Kansas City. And I think this is going to be an absolute banger in the welterweight division. It's kind of a short notice appearance for Ian Garry. Carlos Prates was initially supposed to be taking on Jeff Neal back on the UFC 314 card. Jeff Neal had to pull out, unfortunately, so they pushed the fight out as the main event of this card, and Ian Garry is taking the fight on 25 days notice. So very excited for this fight. And Ian Garry, you know, he's taken short notice fights before, coming off of a loss in his last fight against Shavkat Rakhmonov, taking his first career L, and that one also taking it on short notice. So you would think after that performance and kind of the outcome, taking it on short notice, that he wouldn't do it again. But, you know, props to him stepping in against an absolute killer in Carlos Prates at 5 rounds on short notice. So Ian Garry, you know, you can say a lot about the guy, but he puts his money where his mouth is, and he will show up and fight anybody, anytime, anywhere. So Ian Garry, very young in his career for how much success he's had so far. 27 years old. He's 6'3" with a 74.5-inch reach and 15-1. Was undefeated up until again his most recent performance against Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think Shavkat Rakhmonov won that fight pretty easily. You know, got his takedowns later in the fight, managed the clinch very well, landed the better strikes on the feet. So definitely won that fight against Ian Garry. Curious to see if Ian Garry can implement his technical skills against Carlos Prates. Maybe use his judo and, you know, his offensive grappling that he used against MVP to get the win there against Carlos Prates, who, you know, devastating striker with very good takedown defense as well. So Ian Garry, very good jab, moves well, kicks well. He's very clean and technical. Kind of picks his shots, sticks and moves, fights behind his jab. Can be hit though. Can be hit, can be hurt. We've seen him dropped by Kenan Song back in the day. Was getting hit by Shavkat Rakhmonov. So likes to keep things pretty. I think earlier in his career he would get into kind of firefights in exchange, but as of late I don't really see him doing that much. He likes to just kind of be crispy on the outside, not get hit, land his better strikes, and kind of been a decision machine as of late. His last 4 fights going to decision. 2 finishes in the UFC, so can hurt guys. Does have a little bit of power, but I definitely think the power advantage is going to be on Carlos Prates' side in this one. Carlos Prates fighting out of the Fighting Nerds, absolute savage. Dude's got aura, he's got that X factor, and I think he's going to get this one done. I really do. Carlos Prates is 31 years old. He's 6'1" with a 78-inch reach. So he's going to be 2 inches shorter than Ian Garry, but he's going to have a 3.5-inch reach advantage, which I think is really going to help him. He's got very long arms, very long limbs. His style and reach advantage is really going to help him in this one. He's a very established striker. He's got like 100 Muay Thai fights under his belt. Spent like 6 years in Thailand training. And has a very good MMA record, 21-6. I don't think he's lost since like 2016. So been on an absolute tear right now. 11-fight winning streak, 4-fight winning streak in the UFC, all finishes. So just has a very good check right hook, straight left. Great kicks we saw against Ratke. Very good knees, kind of stabs, teeping kicks up the middle. He's just patient and smooth. He doesn't really force anything. He's accurate. He's efficient. Has a lot of steady pressure against guys, and just kind of eventually finds his shots and, you know, and puts guys out. So great movement defensively, doesn't really get hit that much, very good at eluding strikes, kind of sees everything and, you know, and moves well to evade and then counter, you know, and pick his shots. So and like I said, doesn't really get hit. Haven't really seen him take very clean punches or get hurt in the UFC so far. Granted, he hasn't been fighting the competition that Ian Garry has. I will give him that. Ian Garry, you know, Michael Page, Jeff Neal, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Daniel Rodriguez, like, these are good fighters. Carlos Prates, I mean, getting win over, you know, Neil Magny, Jiang Lang Lee is a good win, even though he is kind of getting up there in age. Trevin Giles. So I do think Machado Garry just has kind of the edge in fighting the better competition. So Prates was getting hit by Trevin Giles, but just never really looked like he was hurt. So really good takedown defense. I know Ian Garry will look to mix it up and get his takedowns like he did against Michael Venom Page if he's not seeing success on the feet. But Carlos Prates has, you know, amazing takedown defense against the cage, middle of the cage. I think his takedown defense is like 91% right now. So, but I think Prates gets this one done. He has more finishing potential, more power than Ian Garry, and he's proven that in his last 4 fights, with all knockouts on the feet. He pushes forward, kind of looking to land damaging strikes, not just point striking the way that Ian Garry does, who just kind of dances around at times, looking to land shots on the back foot and counter, not really ever put himself in danger and engaging in the pocket. Not as of late, though. Prates will be the aggressor, pushing forward and firing. He'll be cutting angles, looking to push Ian Garry back against the fence and constantly advancing. And worst case scenario, if he doesn't get the finish, I think he'll look better for the judges. He'll be doing more. He'll be the aggressor. He'll be controlling the cage, kind of dictating where the fight goes, and throwing more shots and landing more shots to be judged by the judges. I don't think he'll give Garry space to really dance around and point strike. I think Garry will be hesitant to engage, and other than throwing kicks and landing jabs, just because of the sheer consequences coming his way by Carlos Prates, who's a very good counter striker. He is a southpaw, so a lot of different factors that Gary's gonna have to be taken into consideration, as well as not having the reach advantage here. So Gary's he has been kind of relying on his length, his movement, his reach at 170 pounds, being 6'3" in that weight class. He's probably one of the taller guys, one of the longer rangier guys in that division, and he really implements that frame as well as his technical striking to get the wins and kind of just to get decisions. But he can't do that in this one. He's going to be going up against a guy who I think is a better technical striker, who has more power, has a better chin, and is going to have the reach advantage. And I don't think that this is a good matchup for Ian Garry, especially on short notice. Like I said, he'll be 2 inches taller, but he's going to be giving up almost 4 inches in range. His last fight against Shavkat Rakhmonov, he has a very similar frame to Prates, but has a 1 inch less in reach, and he was having a lot of success on the feet, getting the better of Garry in those exchanges, in my opinion. And I think Prates is a better pure striker than Rakhmonov. And finally, Gary's chin. His chin is very suspect, and I think Prates can catch him and hurt him and put him away. On the flip side of that, I don't think Garry can catch Prates. I don't think he has the power or the technique to really land well enough on Prates to hurt him and get him out of there. We've seen him get hit, like I said, and I just don't think Garry has that oomph and that power. And I don't think he's going to be fully committing to strikes to be able to land that blow against Prates, just for concern of getting countered and put out of there. So we've seen Garry get hit. He just doesn't have the frame that looks like somebody who can take a punch. He's got kind of a small head, a slender neck. He just doesn't look like the type of person that takes a punch well. And I think that's that leads to why he has the fighting style that he does, where he's very defensively responsible. And I get it. You don't always want to be the guy who has to take one to give one, but I feel like he has a very defensively responsible style where he's dancing around, wants to be the one kind of leading the engagements, just that he can control the damage that he's taking, because I just don't feel like he has a very good chin. We've seen him get hit and dropped. We've seen him get hit in previous fights, and we saw him get dropped by Kenan Song. If he's getting hit and dropped by Kenan Song in the middle of an engagement by a left hand, I feel like that's what Prates can do much easier with much more force and much more ability to finish the fight. So I think Prates will be landing the better strikes, landing the inside leg kick, squaring up Garry, landing his left hand, slowly pushing him back against the cage. I think he's going to be the one leading the dance in this one, defending takedowns if Garry does shoot. And he's also been the one preparing for this fight. He was preparing for Jeff Neal for about 2 months, who is a pure striker, and now he's taking on Ian Garry, who's a little bit longer, a little bit rangier, doesn't have near as much punching power or danger on the feet as Jeff Neal. And Gary's taking it on short notice. Who knows if he was in training camp? I don't know. But taking a short notice fight against Carlos Prates over 5 rounds is very concerning to me. So I think Prates gets it done. I am concerned that Prates, he hasn't really been 5 rounds before. If you look at his record in the UFC, all of his fights have ended, before the end of the second round, and he hasn't been to a decision since 2021. So not only has he not gone 3 full rounds since 2021, he's never gone 5 full rounds, and we know that Garry can do that on short notice, as we saw against Ian, or as we saw against Shavkat Rakhmonov. So I think Ian Garry, the only way that he wins this is if he can stay safe, point strike, land the better strikes on the feet, not take a lot of damage, maybe get some takedowns, edge out some rounds, and eventually Carlos Prates starts to kind of gas and slow down, which will allow him to get a little bit ahead on the feet. But that's really the only way that I see this ending. I don't see him subbing Prates, who's a jiu-jitsu black belt in his own right, very good takedown defense. So I think that Carlos Prates will be able to land the better shots and eventually get the knockout, and if not, do enough to win enough rounds to get a decision in this one. But I do think he finishes Ian Garry. Doesn't have a lot of momentum coming off of the first loss in his career, taking this on short notice. It's just not a very good recipe for success on Ian Garry's part, and I don't really understand why he's taking this fight. You know, he's young. You just took a short notice fight and lost. Like, now you're putting yourself in a really precarious situation to be on a 2-fight losing streak when you really don't have to be. So gonna go with Carlos Prates to get this one done by KO. If not, wins enough rounds, maybe loses a couple to Ian Garry towards the end, but gets a decision. Regardless, I think he gets this one done. Thanks.